today we're creating some acid. If you're not familiar with acid, it's often from the Roland 303, which is an instrument which has been a big part of dance music over the last 30 years or so. And there's a certain plugin I use and a certain way I use it and process it to get some great acid in my tracks. I've literally been using this for years now, and it's become a bit of a staple part of my sound. So in today's video, I want to show you how to use it for yourself. So let's get into it.
SYNTHO.
So at the moment, I've got this little groove here. And to be honest, this is a very typical point in which I'd bring a loop to before I introduce acid. I don't like to use it too early because I feel like then it takes up a lot of the track, and as the frequencies of a 303 are quite low, but not quite low enough to be your bass line, I find it can get in the way of your bass, etc. if you don't put a bass line in first. So I like to get a bass in first and a few synth elements, and then the magic can start. So what we need to do is insert a MIDI track, and let me show you the plugin. It's called ABL3. Here, we drag this on to the MIDI channel, and it looks like this. So if you've ever seen a 303, it looks pretty similar to this. And there is two ways to use this mainly. You can use internal sequencer, or you can use it by sending MIDI patterns to it. The difference is, it's kind of obvious. You can create a MIDI clip and literally send melodies to it like you would do any other VST like Diva, Omnisphere, etc. Or we can use the internal sequencer. One of the beauties of acid and 303 in general is the vibe you get when you use the internal sequencer. So the first thing I always do is load a pattern. So if you click this, you click load pattern, you get all these amazing pre-made patterns from what has probably been created by some very talented engineers. So look at all these. And when you click one of these, not only do you get a sequenced melody, you also get the parameters adjusted on the ABL3. So let's go for techno baseline 13. And let's solve this. Let's turn it down a bit. Load pattern. That. Loads and loads and loads. So what we need to do next is decide what we want to change in terms of the melody. What I do is, if I'm working in a certain scale, so if you click in the bass line here, you can see I've actually got the scale function G. So it's pretty easy to know that we need to stick within the G scale, G minor scale. What you could do is, if you're not familiar with the notes in that scale, is go onto Google and type in G minor, and then you'll be able to see the exact notes letter for letter, and then just make sure no notes in the ABL3 are out of that scale. So if you look here, it says pattern. We need to change this from classic to pattern, and now we can see all the notes in this scale. So as I said, working in G, what that means is all these notes need to be in G for it to sound right. Funnily enough, all these notes are actually already in scale. It looks like this is C minor, but I'm going to change all these pitches to G2. So that means they're going to be corresponding with the root note of the bass line. So I've changed all of these to G. We can actually leave these other bits where they are. So if we press play now, we could start to mute some notes if we wanted. And when you hear that big hit that almost feels like there's been an extra pressure applied to the synth, that's the accent. So we can turn the accent down. You turn the accent up, you get these extra powerful hits. So the cutoff, just like any filter, open it up, you get more high frequencies. The resonance then will increase the volume of that frequency on the cutoff. You can use the envelope to just take off some of the top end. The decay will just make it a bit shorter. And it's almost like it just works every time. Watch this. I just don't know what it is about the acid, but it seems to just fit with everything. I think maybe it's where it sits on the frequency spectrum, but that sounds amazing. As long as you've got it all in scale, it will work. So then we can play around with the cutoff like this. Could try some extra notes. That's really cool. So basically where the gate is playing, that means there is a note playing there. And if we do down or up, this will play an octave down or an octave up. And like I said before, the accent, if you've got an accent drawn and you turn this up, the more intense the accent is. So let me show you. Take accent off. I would kind of describe it as no accent, it's just a flat line note. Accent on, it's a amplified, wackier note. And if you watch what happens when you slide, literally imagine a slide, the note just goes. It just takes a bit longer. So if you're writing MIDI, you can't actually get all of these effects with the accent and slide. I think you can actually, but I'm not exactly sure how to do it. But it's not got as much freedom as if you are using it like this. So this is how I program the ABL3. I would highly recommend everyone getting this. It's definitely, I would say, my most used plugin in terms of synths. What you can do is you can drag this bar over and then do a 32 bar pattern. So you'd have to change this here to 32. They should have a copy and paste function, but they don't, which is just incredibly annoying. But they've got 16. So that is how you program the ABL3. I'm going to duplicate this channel and just show you how to create it as a drawn pattern. So if we just come in here and just do like this note. What you need to do is click inside ABL3 and hit this button and change MIDI mode to host sync and change this. No, that's it. Just change MIDI mode to that and then press play. And now it's just like you play MIDI. So you can make them longer. But honestly, I think there is a lot more fun to be had when using it as a sequencer. So that's what I'd recommend, guys. So now we've got our melody, we're going to get rid of that and go back to the sequence one. I'm actually going to save this because sometimes ABL3 can be a bit temperamental, and if you undo something and the pattern goes, it's pretty impossible to figure out what you did to get the actual original vibe. So now we've got a nice sound, but we want it to have a bit more character. How do we do that? The first thing for me is always distortion with acid. We can use Ableton's very own overdrive. Let me show you this. That's obviously way too much. So let's turn the drive down to about 30, turn the tone down a bit. Let's just turn the dry wet down. We can change where the frequencies are. And it just makes it sound, like I say, more real. And a personal favourite distortion for the ABL3 is the Culture Vulture. This is part of the UAD bundle. The UAD bundle can now be bought on a subscription with the UAD Spark. I personally have bought the sound card a few years ago, so I've got a lot of these plugins. But inside here, they've got some really cool presets. Turn the drive up. It just has something about it, which I can't quite describe, but you know, the ears don't lie, guys. So if it sounds good, it sounds good. We don't need to always know the science behind what is going on. I just know the Culture Vulture, with a bit of drive, can bring the acid to life. If you've not got that, try Decapitated by Sound Toys, try Saturn by FabFilter, or just use Overdrive by Ableton. What I am going to do now is take off some low end, because like you'll be able to see, there's a lot going on in this range here. So let's shave off some of this low end. Let's go 200 hertz. Actually crank that up a bit. And now that won't get in the way of the bass. So it's important when using acid that you don't get in the way of the bass line. Nice. So what I'm going to do next is use some echo. So there's two ways we can use echo. We can do it on a send and return or as an insert. So ABL3, what kind of delay do we want? I'm going to go Echo Boy. This is my go-to. This is by Sound Toys. And I like to do the 8th dot. I'm actually going to roll some of this. we can mess around with this filter here with the cutoffs. We could put the low up so it's actually only some of the top end delaying, not all that mid range. It just adds a bit of extra groove. I would say if you've got more notes in the melody, so say we add some more back in now. You might not want to have delay on it because you want it to be more killer, like this. We could have a note on every single one with this. Might want to go harder on this. So what I do here is, I would actually use some micro shift, which is a chorus by SYNTHO, to make it sit a little bit wider. Let's get some accents in here. Let's get some slide. If you do some slides, you can just experiment. And next, I would always sidechain this to the kick. I'm using Nicky Romero's Kickstart plugin. It's about £10. This just makes it dip when the kick hits. And I would say this is my typical chain on the Acid. Some bonus tips, you could add some phase, some flange, but it can start to sound a bit wild. If you were going for more of a trippy, you know, sci-fi effects, you could do some... See, you can literally do whatever. Like, straight away. That sounds really nice and wide. So guys, that is ABL3 wrapped up. That is the inside look at how I use it and how I process it. And to be honest, I think this could be great for everyone. You can be using loads of different ways, in more ambient stuff, more club ready stuff. And yeah, I look forward to hearing how you guys use it. If you've got any comments, pop them below and I'll see you all very soon.
SYNTHO.